So here I was in a dead-end career making 45 grand a year. Now, where I live, 45 grand makes just slightly above what you would make working at In-N-Out Burger. But at least at In-N-Out Burger, you make a quality product. For me, I had no skills, just email spamming, and that was something I was really not proud of. But what I did have was the awareness that I had really screwed up in my career, and at that point I was willing to do whatever it took to get things back on track. So let me tell you my story of how in 2 years I started making over 100K in a career path that I actually enjoyed. And the best part of all of it is everything I did was repeatable. If I can do it, so can you. So the first thing I realized was that if I projected out my career path 10 or 20 years, where would I be? Did I want my boss's job? Did I want my boss's boss's job? No. And there was really no demand for my skills at bigger and better companies either. So the first tip I have for you is you got to realize that you're a scrub. I came to the very painful conclusion that I had wasted my college and post-college career building up skills that really had no future. And the only way for me to get my career back on track would be to start over in a whole new industry. Now this is a painful thing to swallow. A lot of people would rather run from this decision than face it. For me, I was forced into this decision. I walked into work one day and someone replied to my spam email with the words F you written in caps about 1,000 times. And that's when I realized this career wasn't for me. At this point though, you can't just change your job. Like, you got to get a paycheck while you build up new skills. And how do you figure out what industry to go in? And how do you start building actual experience towards it so you can get a real job there? Which brings me to my second tip for you, which is to expand your knowledge by doing the dirty work at your company. Volunteer for those odd jobs that no one wants to do. Every company and every team has more work than they have people to do so. You just need to keep your eyes open for these opportunities. You've probably already gotten used to ignoring them by now, so you really need to open your eyes for them. Let me give you some examples. One time I helped our sales team manually dedupe our contact database of like 100,000 people. Another time I helped our accounting team find some missing transactions. And I also helped our engineering team build the HTML email templates that I'd eventually send out as spam. Along the way, I was building job experience that I could actually put on my resume, and I was exposing myself to different jobs and career paths that I found interesting personally and that had a future. One of those areas happened to be in a tool called Salesforce, which I very distinctly remember my coworker telling me there were jobs paying 90K a year in. Now, after hearing that, I volunteered for a lot more Salesforce projects. But there were other career paths I was exposed to that would have been just as good too. For example, I was doing a lot of work in Excel and getting pretty good at it, which could have led me down a data scientist career path, or maybe in modern terms, a machine learning specialist path. My third tip for you is to recognize opportunities and pounce. Sometimes in your life, maybe once a year, opportunities come by where your decision in that very moment ends up affecting the rest of your life. Maybe you know what I'm talking about. Like that one time, senior year in college, where it's just you and the person you've liked for such a long time. You're just sitting there on the quad, looking at the stars together. It's quite romantic. And you're thinking, wow, now would be the perfect time for me to tell her my true feelings about her. But you didn't. And you blew it. And that moment never came by, and you both moved on, and that was that. So, that never happened to me, by the way. I've got a great wife who contributes to half the views on my YouTube channel. But I've heard of these types of stories from like my friends and friends of friends and like, acquaintances. Yeah. Anyway, these moments happen in your career too. I watch all the time as people get that big shot in their career and they just let it go because they're too scared. Too scared to fail, too scared to succeed. I'm honestly not sure. Sometimes I think people think that, oh, I'm going to take that opportunity next time because next time I'm going to be more ready. But honestly, you're never ready. Sometimes you just got to go for it. My big moment came when I was sitting in a room full of our executives and they were talking about hiring a consultant to do some big Salesforce project that was way out of my league. The consultant was asking for something like 20 or 30 grand to do some complex automation that I had no idea how to do. And while my natural instinct would be just to sit there and nod my head, in that moment I realized this could be my big shot. So I stood up and I said, hey, let me try to do this project. I'll learn the technology, I'll work nights, I'll work weekends, and if I succeed, you get it for free. If I fail, then go ahead and hire the consultant. And I just remember like my whole body was shaking and my heart was just pumping. They took me up on that job offer. I worked my butt off and I succeeded. And from then on, I was officially on our Salesforce team on my long-term career path. Now, all that was fine and dandy, but I was still making $45K a year and struggling to pay rent. And I knew there were Salesforce jobs out there paying double that. But companies don't just double your salary out of nowhere, even if you're doing really well. So I had to leave the company. And that's my fourth tip for you. Leave your company. I actually struggled to find another job from there. I did get a job offer from a company, but they only offered me slightly more than the $45K I was making. And it makes sense. Why would a company risk doubling my salary when they knew my current company was only willing to pay me $45K? And if I was only making $45K, what position would I be in to turn down a job offer at $55K? I actually ended up turning down that job offer, and then from there I changed my job hunting strategy. I started going to a lot of industry events on meetup.com, various official and unofficial events in my general area. I remember often having to drive over an hour away just to go to these events. And one of these events happened to be life-changing for me because I met a recruiter there. Now, I had never considered working with a recruiter in the past because I didn't really see the point. Like, I could find the same jobs by going on Google, searching for them, and applying online. Why work with a recruiter when they would potentially take a cut of my salary? But this recruiter happened to be pretty convincing, so I ended up working with her anyways. And that's my fifth tip for you, which is to work with a recruiter. So a company did end up giving me a job offer, and that's when I learned the benefit of working with a recruiter. Instead of me doing the salary negotiations dance with a company, a professional recruiter did on my behalf. And if you don't know how recruiters are paid, they're paid on a percentage of the salary that you accept, something like 20% of it. So the more you get paid, the more they get paid. And I have no idea what went on in the background of these negotiations, but I assume the recruiter used her knowledge of average industry salaries to get me an average industry salary. And so all of a sudden, I get a phone call and I'm staring at a job offer of $110K a year. And the recruiter did all the negotiations. Nice. So that's my story of how I turned my career around in 2 years. And I sincerely believe if I can do it, you can too. I'm not a particularly special person, and so I hope you can do it even bigger and better than I can. By the way, if you're curious, the Salesforce industry is still super hot these days with even higher average salaries than they were before. I talk about it a lot on my website, sfdc99.com, but you gotta follow whatever path makes sense for you. Hope you enjoyed this video. If so, give me a like or subscribe so I feel good pumping out more content like this. To all you tech dreamers out there, good luck and see you next time.